Welcome to 20 Minutes Self-Development with me, your host, Tam Dillon. 20 Minutes Self-Development, the podcast that's all about focused, effective self-development, one tool at a time. In each episode, I'll be introducing you to a specific practice or technique, and I'll be diving into why it matters, how it works, and how you can integrate it seamlessly into your daily life. In just 20 minutes, we'll get to the heart of personal growth and insights that make meaningful change feel both accessible and achievable. Let's get into today's episode. Hey, welcome back. So if you tuned into last week's episode, I explored the self, and I was exploring from specifically the my take on the journey through the major arcana as outlined through my upcoming Tarot guidebook. So this week is pretty much a follow on from last week where we chatted about the self, and the self from a tarot perspective is comprised of the first three cards of the major arcana, which is the Fool, the Authentic, which is the authentic self, and then the Magician and the High Priestess, which make up the two aspects of the self, your yin, your yang. If you want the full deep insights, go listen to that episode. I've got 20 minutes and we're focusing on today's topic. But do go check out that episode. It is really insightful. So this week is pretty much a follow on from that, because before you can truly reconnect with your authentic self and get back to the self, it's you have to have that understanding of what's been layered on top of it. So in order to really see the true authentic self, it's helpful to know, like, okay, well, hey, here's all these layers, and that's what these layers look like, so you can differentiate between the two of them. So this episode is all about your preconditions, the influences, beliefs, behaviors, and emotional responses that were shaped by your environment long before you had a say. So long before you first ever had the conscious thought of like, hey, who does Tam want to be? Who's Tam going to be when she grows up? Before you even had the idea to even think a thought like that. Okay, we're talking like way back. This is something that I do outline. Like I say, it's part of my Tarot Major Arcana journey, and it focuses on three main archetypes, and essentially these are the next three cards in the major arcana. So the first three cards make up the self, the Fool, the High Priestess, the Magician. Coming into the next three cards, these three cards make up our preconditioning stage of life, and that's namely the Empress, the Emperor, and the Hierophant, i.e. mother, father, community, just in simple words. And I do fully recognize that all households are completely different. So when I'm talking about maternal or paternal figure, I don't mean specifically the person who gave birth to you or, your sperm donor. I'm talking about actual figures that represent maternal and paternal figures throughout the formative years of your life. Because I do understand that there are single parent households. And I do understand that these figures are not always, maternal figures on your path may not have been, great. They might have been awful. So thinking about these maternal, paternal figures and community, your culture, your traditions, when thinking about those things, don't think like linear, think laterally, think bigger, and really unpack the stuff and look at it from all sides. So when we're looking at preconditions, we're not looking to peel back the layers and be like, these layers are awful, we got to get them off. We're peeling back the layers to understand them so that we know what layers are worth keeping and what layers are definitely worth throwing away. Because these are the things that have essentially built the foundation of who you are. So these are the formative years, and from here you then have the thought of like, okay, well, who does Tam want to be when she's big? Who does Tam want to be in the big world? And that is something that we do frequently throughout our lifetime. That's not a one-time deal either. It's not like you hit age 7, you're like, okay, this is who I'm going to be. You establish, or rather you re-establish yourself frequently throughout your lifetime, because that is where growth happens, that is where change happens, that is where all those transformations and transitions happen. If you're not doing that, yeah. So this episode, we're exploring those preconditions. So these 3 cards that we're exploring, they help you map out how you were shaped. Not, like I said, not in a blaming or reductive way. It's in a way that's going to bring you some clarity and help you make some conscious choices, some healthy choices. Because when you understand your preconditions, you can begin to work with them instead of being ruled by them. Because a lot of your preconditions they're unconscious, because they're formed back when you're 2 or 3, or sometimes even in the womb. So the preconditions, like, we really are going like way back. So you gotta dig deep on this episode, man. Like, this episode is gonna be some real dig deeping. So preconditioning is where the real world begins. It's not a stage that you pass through once. When you're doing precondition work, this is not a okay, well, I get to sit down tonight, work on my preconditions, and then I'm done. Likely you're going to come back to this over and over and over, because those layers they're deep, because they go so far back. But each time you do go back, you have that chance to see those layers with more awareness, with more gentleness, and again, choice. Choosing what layers to keep, choosing what layers to get rid of, what's serving me, what's not serving me. So preconditions are your behaviors, your beliefs, your fears, and your reactions that were formed in response to your early environment. They come from how you were raised, the culture you grew up in, the school systems you were part of, your early relationships, your early friendships, and even the beliefs that are passed down to you from your family or your community. So what makes preconditioning tricky is that, as I mentioned earlier, it operates beneath conscious awareness. So you don't wake up and decide, I'm going to I'm going to believe this about myself today. It doesn't work that way. Instead you internalize messages over time. And often it's subtle. Sometimes it's explicit and loud. And these messages are telling you, about who you are and what's acceptable and what's expected and what's possible and what's not possible. It's being told, no, don't touch that. It's hot. You're going to burn your fingers. It's not being told, don't touch that. You're going to burn your fingers, and you do burn your fingers. And now you're like, oh, okay. So preconditions are developed in those very young years. It's where people are saying, this is, how we interact in social settings. This is how we interact with family. This is, and a lot of this is us simply just watching and observing our environment. We're like little sponges. We're just like absorb. And we're absorbing and we're taking on. And we're taking on because we don't have that capacity for differentiating what is right and what is wrong, what is ours and what is theirs. We're just like viewing the world like, this is everything, this is all real, this is cool, this is everything now. And you're taking that on to be your reality. And so you're starting to build those layers. And I'm talking like back in the baby days, like we're doing this. So the journey of self-development asks you to start peeling back these layers. And it's like I said, it's not about rejecting anything. It really is. It's just about noticing you're back like you did as a baby. You were just observing. You're like, cool, this is how the world is. The difference now is that you do have the capacity to reason and differentiate right and wrong and mine and theirs and, be practical. So you can begin to ask, does this belief that I have still serve me? And is this belief even mine? Do I even believe this belief that I have? And so you're unpacking. And you can ask, is this way of being truly mine? The way that I engage with the world around me, is that truly who I am and who I believe that I should be? Or is that just how I was taught to be? Do I even like being that way? Does that work for me? And again, it's not about asking these questions to look at things to be like, oh, okay, Jana, that's not me. Let's reject that. Oh, I don't like that. That's not me. It's looking at what has formed the beautiful, solid parts of who you are, where you're like, yeah, that belief, yeah, that one aligns. Let's hold on to that. So it really is. It's about observing and then making those conscious choices. Let's bring in these tarot archetypes. Let's chat about these 3 cards. And let's look at how tarot speaks to this. So each of these 3 cards, the Empress, the Emperor, and the Hierophant, they speak to a particular kind of influence. Let's start with the Empress. And the Empress reflects our emotional conditioning. So how love, care, and validation were experienced or withheld in your early life. So I'm not talking about your last romantic relationship if you're in your 30s. Like, please go way further back than that, okay? And this isn't just about whether or not someone said, I love you. It really is like I said, this episode, we're going deep on this episode. So like, go deep with me here. It's about how your emotional needs were responded to. Like, get in there. Were your feelings taken seriously? Were you validated, invalidated? Was your softness welcomed? Were you told to toughen up? Big boys don't cry. Pull up your big boy pants. How were you treated in the context of emotional spaces? Did you feel safe being yourself in emotional spaces? That's a big question to ask. And that's why I say, and I want you to really go back and ask the question, did you feel space? Did you feel safe being yourself in emotional spaces? This conditioning of the Empress affects how you treat yourself now. So pay attention to that. Look at that, because it's going to tell you, oh, okay, now I get why I treat myself the way that I do, or bring light to how you treat yourself, because sometimes we don't actually realize how poorly we're treating ourselves until we shine some light on us and we're like, oh, okay, now I see. This is your self-worth, your compassion, your ability to receive love and care from others. All of this sits within that Empress aspect. Go and work with the Empress card and go and peel back those maternal layers and explore those maternal experiences, anything related to your emotional experiences, your experiences around love, whether good or bad or traumatizing, no matter what. Go and explore those, because they're going to show you why you are the way you are here and why you react to the world the way that you do here. And you can now also then decide what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and choose what you want to do with your onion. You can let the onion make you cry, or you're going to just chop it up and fry it with something. Okay? It's a great thing about bringing awareness to the stuff, is it gives you choices. A really helpful question to reflect on here is ask, what messages did you receive about love and value when growing up? I'll give you that again. What messages did you receive about love and value when you were growing up? And how do those messages still play out in your life today? Yes, I'm giving you some homework in this episode. Okay. So I hope you're writing these questions down. Let's look at the Emperor. So the Emperor brings in structure, discipline, and authority. So think about how rules were enforced in your home. Was there routine and predictability in your household? Or chaos and inconsistency? Were your mistakes punished harshly or treated as learning opportunities? When you messed up, what was the reaction? What was the response? What did you get back from making mistakes? Were you micromanaged, or were you left to figure things out on your own? How much independence were you given? How much autonomy were you given? The way discipline was modeled becomes part of your inner framework. So, and think about this very practically. If your upbringing was chaos and disorder and unpredictability, and you don't know from one day to the next what's going on, likely your inner framework and your inner workings, your inner world is like that, because that is also what you're accustomed to. And if you don't have that, that's uncomfortable. And as much as that isn't a comfortable thing to be living in, it's still what you know, and what we know is comfortable, even if it's uncomfortable, because humans are weird like that. So really think about your inner framework. You think about your inner world, and have you got structure? And is that structure just naturally there as part of who you are, or is that structure like a forced, rigid, I've got to maintain the structure because we can't have the chaos? Because that's also, an effect of, an effect of that the chaotic upbringing. Sometimes you go to the extreme of, we got to hold on to all the control, of the chaos. So think about how you hold yourself accountable, how you handle things like your decision making, how you respond to structure or pressure, how do you respond to authority, how are you at being your own authority? So think about these things. And when this stuff is all out of balance, you may notice, like I said, one of two extremes. You're either going to go super rigid, need to have all the control, must hold on to everything, can't let anything go because you can't have the chaos. Or it's just going to be total avoidance of boundaries, because that's you don't know what boundaries look like. It's just always being chaos. Either way, it can block you from trusting yourself, and it's definitely going to block you from making some aligned choices for yourself. So try asking yourself, how do you respond to discipline from others and from yourself? How do you respond to discipline both from others and from yourself? Do you trust your own inner authority, or do you look for someone else to set the rules? Ask those questions. Like I said, I'm giving you homework, okay? But write those questions down. I'm being the authority right now, okay? I'm being the paternal archetype. So you can write your questions down, but write them down in a loving way, because, balance. So to ask those questions, do you trust your own inner authority? It's a good question to ask. Do you trust yourself to make good, solid decisions for yourself? Do you trust the decisions that you make for yourself? Do you second guess yourself? Do you look for someone else to set the rules? You want someone else to make the decisions for you? And I've seen it in reading tarot professionally. I saw it frequently where people come to me and they're just like, can you just tell me what to do? Like, I don't know what to do here. Tell me what to do, Tam. Give me the answer. Ooh, well, make the answer for yourself. Decide for yourself. Be your own authority. So question that side of yourself. I spoke around at the Hierophant. So the Hierophant is all about belief systems, your traditions, and your societal expectations. So this is the conditioning you may not even realize you've inherited, because it's not in your immediate space. It's not in the house that you grew up in. It's outside of the house that you grew up in. So think about religious institutions, cultural norms, your educational systems, how you were schooled, what you were schooled on, and the general messages that the society you grew up in gave you about, what's right, what's normal, what does success look like, what does, a real family look like. So this here has also preconditioned. these beliefs often go unchallenged until something feels off. And even then, questioning them can feel like a betrayal. This is a big one. These preconditions here are sometimes some of the hardest ones to work through, because for a lot of people, because you're looking at your belief systems, you're looking at your religion, you're looking at your culture. These are the things that you were told. This is how you should be, and now you're picking them apart. So yes, that feeling of like, oh, if is what I'm doing here, is this okay, is normal. And yes, it is okay. It just feels like it's not, because, well, society has told you that it's not. And especially, it's because it's tied to your identity, it's tied to your community, it's tied to your family. So this part of the unpacking the preconditions can often be probably the most uncomfortable for a lot of people for those reasons. But working with the Hierophant doesn't mean rejecting tradition altogether. You're not like, okay, well, I'm not going to be a Christian anymore. Like, I'm going to go and, go on the opposite end of the spectrum and join the satanic cult. No, that's not what you're doing. You're looking to question the beliefs that have been instilled in you, to know if those beliefs align with the person that you are, that you're re-establishing yourself to be in the Lover's card. So it means examining what you've been taught and deciding consciously what still fits. What fits you? And if a belief doesn't fit you anymore, that's okay. You're not betraying anyone. Your church is not going to arrive at your doorstep with pitchforks and torches and be like, why did you change that belief? And if they do, well, maybe it is a good idea to change your belief. But in all seriousness, like, it's okay to examine these parts of yourself, because they're what make you you. And if you're living your life based on someone else's beliefs that are not in alignment with who you are, you're living a very out of alignment life. So ask yourself the questions. Here's your Hierophant homework. Write these down. What core beliefs have you never questioned? What core beliefs have you never questioned? You're just like, these beliefs are my beliefs, and this is just it. You've never questioned them. You've never even thought to question them. They just are. And ask, what do you believe? What do you believe? What you believe because it resonates with you, or do you believe what you believe because it was drilled into you? You were told, this is the way it is. This is the only way that it is. And that one right there is very common. So it is okay to poke around that question and ask, do I believe what I believe because it resonates with me? It's yes, absolutely, without one question of a doubt. That belief sits with me beautifully. Or is it there because it was drilled into me? Homework is hard this week, kids. Homework is hard this week, and I hope you're going to do the homework, because as much as this work is hard and uncomfortable, it's really valuable work to do, because it gives you such deep insights into who you are today without you even realizing you are the way that you are, because what happened there when you were 2 years old, it does. Those layers are affecting you. They're playing a role. So that's why we gotta peel back these layers. And working through your preconditions, like I said earlier, it's not a one-time thing. You don't go through a checklist and come out healed on the other side. You're like, okay, done the Empress, done the Emperor, done the Hierophant, cool, sharp, we're done with the preconditions, I'm all good now. No, sweetheart, don't work that way. You're going to come back, and you're going to come back, and you're going to come back, and you're going to come back. All right. And it's okay that you keep coming back. You come back as much as you need to. If this needs to be lifelong work, it's lifelong work. It's okay. Don't get stuck doing it as lifelong work and be like, okay, well, I'm going to just keep peeling back layers for the rest of my life. If you do get to a stage where you've pulled back all the layers, then you can stop. Okay. And yes, that is achievable. That is very much doable. but know that often when we pull back a layer, it reveals another one. And don't get frustrated with that process. Flow with that process and embrace that process. And you might think that you've outgrown certain beliefs until you find yourself reacting from that place again. You're maybe under stress or pressure. And that's not failure. That's the spiral nature of growth. Growth it's a spiral. It's not a straight upward shot to, the end goal. So instead of striving to fix or remove your conditioning, the work becomes more about developing awareness and choice, and you begin to respond instead of reacting, which is always a good thing to do. You begin to pause and ask, where is this coming from? Is this coming from me? And is this something that really aligns with me? Something I really believe? This is not glamorous work, kids. This is not glamorous work, okay? I'm going to be honest with that. You know me, I'm all about the honesty. But do the work because it is transformative. I've done the work myself. And you will come out on the other side with your eyes so wide open with such a new shift in your perception of where reality actually sits. And it's grounding. It's grounding, and it brings such a beautiful, solid foundation to your being. Like I said, it's not glamorous work. It's not fun. It's not easy. But man, it's worth it, because the transformation that comes from doing this work is just, the English language has no words, okay? So go explore your preconditions. Go sit with your Empress, your Emperor, and your Hierophant. Go sit with those figures in your life, the people, the places, the experiences, the schools, the teachers, all of us. Go and sit with each one. I don't mean physically. that would be a lot of work, okay? You can sit at home and do this work. But sit with those aspects and ask those questions. Do the work. This is your homework for the week. I'm going to come and knock on your door next week and check to see if you've done your homework or not, all right? Thank you for spending these 20 minutes with me. This incredibly deep exploration takes courage, but I know that you got the courage to do it. It's not easy to look at the ways that you've been shaped, especially poking around these subjects, especially when those patterns are so entangled with people that you love, systems you've relied on, values you were taught not to question. I get this work is not going to be comfortable. I'm not promising that it is. I'm promising it's going to be uncomfortable, okay? But this work is what brings you home to yourself, because when you peel back the layers, you get to see, there's Tam, there she is. Okay, I see her now. That's what makes it so rewarding. That's what makes it worth doing the very unglamorous work. And remember, you don't have to reject everything that you were taught. This is not about, ripping the onion apart and throwing away all the layers. Maybe you need to just peel back gently, because some of those layers they're worth keeping. But you have the power and the authority to choose for yourself, and that is the difference. And that is what reestablishing the self is all about. I'll see you next week. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and keep showing up gently, honestly, and with as much self-compassion as you can muster. Much love, and see you next week. Thanks for joining me for this week's episode of 20-Minute Self-Development. If today's insights were helpful, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, where I'll share another practical tool or technique for your personal growth journey. If you're looking for more personalized support, my self-development coaching offers a space to explore these tools at a deeper level and tailors them to your unique needs. You can also visit the Tam Dillon Academy for all my courses and upcoming programs to also help you along your self-development journey. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, and remember, growth happens one small intentional step at a time.